Welcome back from that break, and it's still Frontline on New Frontiers Television. Horticulture, that is the cultivation of fruits, herbs, vegetables, herbs, spices, flowers, and ornamentals, is far more than just a subsector of agriculture. It is very important, it is very vital for food security, environmental sustainability, and economic growth. However, in recent times, it has been discovered that there's this virus that is feasting on our plants, and it is affecting, states. Recently, the Minister of Agriculture said that 1.3 billion naira was lost due to this particular virus that is affecting one of our plants, one of our vegetables, and that is tomato. And that is why today on our interview segment, we want to talk about tomato Ebola, Tuta absoluta. That is the name, tomato Ebola. And joining the discussion this morning to talk about what exactly is tomato Ebola, how is it affecting both the farmers and consumer, and that person is Farmer Ayobami Kende. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, to start with, tomato. What is that process, the process of, planting tomato?
Tomato is one of the exotic vegetable that we have, fruit vegetable that we have.
Okay.
Because we have different types of vegetables. We have the leafy vegetables, the fruit vegetables, the root ones, and the likes. Or in case of tomatoes, if you want to break even, or you want to follow the good agronomic practices, the gap, you have to raise it from seedling. You raise it from nursery. You plant your seed in nursery. Either you use your nursery tray or you build a tent and all the stuff. Then after like 8 weeks, you transplant to the permanent feed where you want to raise it. Where either you are planting in the greenhouse, so-called greenhouse or screenhouse, or open feed. But first, you have to raise from the nursery, then transplant to the permanent feed. Then from there, you begin to do every other agricultural practices like maintaining the weeding, the fertilizer application. You have to have a calendar. There is need for calendar for all those things because it has a time so that you won't miss any of those the practices that you need to carry out so that it will give you the good end result. So it is important that you raise it from nursery. Then after nursery, you transplant to the permanent field. If you have the capacity of mulching, there is what we call mulching, covering up the soil around the plant. That controls the weed. That also conserves the water in the soil. So doing that, there might be need for you to do staking, especially for the exotic tomatoes, the hybrids. If you need to stake, either in the screenhouse or on the open field, so you need to stake so that you provide support for the plant. That will ensure a longer production of fruits, flowering, and you will not waste. The plant will not be struggling to do all those things. So then there comes to the most important thing: pest management, because tomato is very sensitive. It's very sensitive when it comes to pest attack and diseases. So you have to have a program, just like I said. It has a program. So it is it's not just like any other crop that you can just do, and that's why you see that some part of the country are known for the production of tomatoes. So the environment there, the climatic condition favor it, and it is those that are making it down the south. They have to put those things into measure. They have to put the measure in place so that they can mimic the right environment for the production of tomatoes.
So that means that not everybody can actually plant it if you don't follow the step.
I used to say that whatsoever you want to do, knowledge is very important. Get the knowledge, then you will know your position, if you can actually do it or not.
Now, do we have types of tomatoes? Because if you go to the market, you see different shapes. And I know that while growing up, there is this one that's you can actually plant at the back of your house, like has this long,
fruit.
Long fruit. So, what are the types of tomatoes or species?
There are different types. There are different species.
Okay.
We let's say we have the indigenous ones. Those ones that you are mentioning are indigenous ones.
Okay.
Then from the indigenous ones, we have the hybrid. The hybrid are the one you cannot just do anyhow. You have to follow the program. The local ones are the ones, if you bring it side by side, you will know them by this explanation I want to make now. Okay. You know, there is one that is watery. Yes. There is one that has more paste. Yeah, so there is that one that is that has more of water. When you blend it with much pepper, you will feel the pepper. But the paste in the other one will suppress the pepper. So we have different types. We have different types of tomatoes. That settles it. And among these local, the indigenous ones and the hybrid ones, we still have different products from different companies. So I won't mention the names so that it won't be like an advert. Yes. So there are different types. There are different types.
Now let's move gradually to the topic itself. What are the common diseases, you know, that tomatoes that a farmer can associate with, especially when the farmer is actually breeding or trying to plant a tomato? So what are those diseases, common diseases, before we move to the recent one? Okay,
just like I said, tomato is one of the plants that we care for so much. The way you plant tomato, the way you care for tomato, you might not care as much for pepper and other fruit vegetables. Now, one of the tomato has a lot. Aphids affect tomatoes. Aphids, let me put it this way, from virus ranging to fungi to nematodes. So under those headings, you now begin to bring them out. Those things that affect tomatoes. Nematode also affect tomatoes. So aphid is there. What's the name of this one? Blight. Blight is there. Tomato mosaic virus is also there. So we have a lot of them. So under each of that's why I just group into fungi, majorly fungi, nematodes, and what's it called?
Blight.
Virus. Okay. I mentioned virus. I mentioned nematode and fungi. Fungi. Yeah, those three. Under those three are the major insect pests that we have that attacks tomato production.
But it seems as if, you know, farmers, you know, or those people that are knowledgeable in plants, they've been able to curtail these common diseases, because it's not as if we hear it often, like this tomato Ebola that we now hear.
Yeah, you are right. You know, over time, once all these things are coming up, and the scientists, they are not resting. They are developing one or two things. That's why we have different types of tomato seed. Now, there are some seeds that are resistant to some of these diseases that I mentioned. There are some seeds that are resistant to it. Even environmental factors that we are trying to create, that will not permit those things, the infestation of those pests and the diseases. So that's why, you know, this disease we are talking, the recent one we are talking about, we can still say is new, but not really new, because something that has been discovered over 10 years. It's not new. It's not new. So it's just that we need to upgrade up our game. Yeah, that's it.
Now let's move to tuta absoluta, tomato Ebola. What exactly is tomato Ebola, and how can we? Well, it's a virus.
Yes.
We can't see it, but how can farmers? How can they identify this virus?
Okay. Tomato Ebola. So people call it tuta absoluta. It's a virus, just like you said, and it has 4 stages of life. Okay. Now, the egg stage, we have the larva stage, we have the pupa stage, and we have the adult stage. The adult lay the eggs. The eggs develop into larva. Larva develops into pupa. Pupa becomes adult again. That's the cycle. So it continues like that, like that. Now, the most dangerous part of these stages, the one that has the negative economic impact is that of larva. Larva will feed on your plant, feed on the leaves, on the fruit, on the flower. So it affects nearly all the parts of the plant. So that's why it is more dangerous than every other ones. And it can run down a farm within 48 hours. Now, look at it. Your tomato has a life of between 60 to 100 days, depending on the management. Now, these 2 types of soluta that we are talking about, complete all this cycle within 30 to 35 days. Even before you move your plant from nursery to the permanent feed, it has started its operation. It has started degrading. It has started affecting the plant. So now look at it. How when you have a fully established farm that has started bearing fruit, if this virus we are talking about, if the farmer did not take note on time, within 48 hours, everything can go down. Because it affects the fruit, the plant, the flower. So there is no part of the plant that it does of tomato that is not affected. So it makes it more devastating and a huge loss to farmer if care is not taken.
Yes, you mentioned earlier that this particular virus, this tomato Ebola, has been in existence for 10 years. But how is it that we are just like, it's just coming into limelight? Farmers are just crying about it now. Like it's almost everywhere.
It is not that we are just crying about it. The first investigation was 2015.
Okay.
But the outbreak, actually, that we had a great loss was 2016. Now, after 2016, the scientists came up with some chemicals that can undo those things. Then local farmers too, they had 1 or 2 plants together in a bowl control, creating a bowl pesticide, controlling it to a certain reasonable level. Now, in 2020 again, you see that's a space of 4 years.
4 years.
There was another outbreak. So that's 4 years. Now in 2023 again, there was another outbreak. You see, now 2025, if you look at it, if you look at the trend, the space between 2016 and 2020, just 4 years. 2020 to 2023, 3 years. 2023 to 2025, 2 years. It means they are beginning to adapt to the chemicals. So the chemical is no longer, it's like, in the days of some years back, once you have maybe malaria or something, you take chloroquine and that's all. It goes to a point that chloroquine no longer works. You get it? So they started bringing other drugs that are stronger than chloroquine. So we need something stronger because it's like they are adapting. It's like the
chemical is no longer effective.
Exactly. It is not. They are getting over it. So that is it. If you look at the trend, that's the problem. Now,
looking at this virus, is it human error or is it just nature? Because you explained that, before the tomato plant is transferred from the nursery to the permanent field, like even that virus could have started, manifesting. So is it that the farmer is so careless, or what exactly is happening that this virus has now eaten deep into farmlands?
I always want to liken the life of any plant, crops, generally, to human being.
Okay.
Someone that has malaria, is it his fault to have malaria? That's the question. Is it his fault to have malaria? What happened? Something led to something. So, there are deficiencies. Women we are not in absolute control of the whole thing in the entire universe. So, there is always deficiency somewhere. Something gives birth to something. An error comes in somewhere, and it happens. It's what we know from the history. It's an infestation. In fact, the report has it that it started from, I think, Peru or something. It's not even Nigeria. So, in fact, you might want to ask for that. How does it get here? So that is the thing. In as much wind blows and people traveled. We move seed there and there. Scientists work on things. It can come from any angle. So we cannot lay the entire thing on the farmers. That either the farmers did not do what they're supposed to do, or they didn't do what they're supposed to do properly. So we can't lay it on farmers. Yes. It might be from the seed as well. You know, scientists are there to solve problems. And in the process of solving problems, sometimes you create another problem. So that's why research never ends. Continuity.
Now, let's look at, you know, the economic impact. Of course, farmers are actually crying.
Yes.
Farmers are actually crying because this virus has eaten deep into farmland. However, consumers are also bearing the brunt because looking at it, you know, 2 years back, a basket of tomato was sold for like 15,000 naira. But if you ask a farmer, if you ask someone that is buying a basket of tomato now, he or she will tell you that they get the basket for 80,000, 90,000 naira. Now, so what's the economic impact of, you know, of this virus? Knowing fully well that, like, the span of this virus, the outbreak is now coming close. Before it was 4 years, 3 years, now 2 years. Before we know it, it will be a year if this virus is not curtailed. So what's the economic impact?
You know, if a virus can affect a whole farm, thousands or hundreds of hectares of farmland, in just 48 hours, and there will be a serious crisis, then we should know that there is a serious problem, and that should be handled as such. Now, our demand, even the market, we need about 2.3 million metric tons to satisfy our consumption. Even at that, we have not met up. We still have deficit about 400 to 600 million metric tons to meet up. Now we have infestation. Definitely, number one, it will rise because we are 10 people on one fruit. 10 people on one fruit. So the highest bidder gets it. And the farmer that is bringing it maximizes the opportunity. He wants to break even too. Do you understand now? So that's the issue that we are having. And we cannot put all of it on the farmers and all those stuff. You know, things rise. Chemicals, new chemicals that comes in. Maybe a farmer that has done all the program, the chemical management, the pest management, and everything that he's supposed to do during the production, has done it. And suddenly there is an infestation from somewhere. A quick one, you get another. That's increase in the cost of production.
And you also want to add
we add it to he has to get it. He has to get his money. So we add it to the cost of production as well. So eventually we will discover that it is not really, the whole thing is not on the farmer's table. So yeah, that is the point. But people look at it, we always look at, we buy a basket of tomato for 15,000, 20,000 last year, and this year we are buying 80,000. No, a lot of factors go into that. A lot. A lot.
Now, because we want a reduction in the price of a basket of tomato, how then can we curtail this virus? Knowing fully well that if we do not act fast, then there is danger.
There is danger indeed.
So how can we curtail this virus?
Well, there are ways. Okay. There are ways. The issue of crop rotation is there. You plant another solanaceous, sorry, is a term actually. You plant, what I'm saying is you plant another crop on that same field that doesn't, that pest does not affect, could not affect. Do you understand now? Okay. Don't plant leafy vegetable, cabbage, and all those stuff. Okay. Leave them. You can consider using your cassava or whatever, just to rotate, so that at least you can reduce their population. So and you can do your pest management. There are biochemicals that are locally made that you can use. There are chemicals in town too. Well, to the scientists, we cannot we we need to do something stronger. Looking at the time frame that these things, the outbreak are reoccurring. So the existing chemicals needs to, or maybe probably upgraded. So chemical usage, crop rotation, and farmers during their off season, when they are not planting, they can plow the land. Just leave it, let sun. Just break the cycle of this of the stages that I mentioned earlier of this tuta absoluta. Break their cycle. So by the time they are at the egg stage, if or adult stage, you plow the land, you expose it to sunlight during the off season, during the dry season, so to say. You leave it there. At least it will reduce their population. Even they are laying eggs, their egg may not hatch. So those are the mechanism. Then intercropping also. It will also break it down to a reasonable extent. So we just need to look inward and look at all those things.
Now, what is the importance or the significance of planting varieties of species, varieties, so that, because you mentioned earlier that there are some crops that they do not, these pests do not affect.
Yes.
Now, research shows that if we can also plant, species, varieties, then there might be a solution. Like this pest might not affect. So, what's the significance?
I want to believe scientists are working on resistant. We call it plant-resistant species, varieties.
Okay.
So I want to believe they are working on that. If we can have that, then just like I was saying earlier before we started about maize and all those stuff. There is armyworm, and there are other. In fact, when we were talking about other pests and diseases that affect tomatoes, I mentioned those ones that are aphids and all those stuff. But we have seeds that are resistant. We have seed varieties that are resistant to some of these diseases. So if we can have a resistant variety to this tuta absoluta, then we are good to go. So that means we'll just everybody is expecting that the price will come down. So when the pest management, disease management of the farmer are reduced, then the price also will drop. That's what will happen. So if we can have a variety that is resistant to tuta absoluta, it will make a good deal for the farmer. So that is it.
Now, before I let you go this morning, you mentioned something about knowledge. That
yes.
If you are knowledgeable, then you're able to conquer all these things that we are talking about. So how often do you acquire knowledge as farmers? Because knowing fully well that there are some people that they are just like, it is inborn for them, like natural. So how often do your association acquire knowledge? Is it everyone that is expected to attend a particular association, or how do you get that knowledge so that this does not affect a lot of farmlands?
Okay. First off, I want to correct the notion that when you are knowledgeable, you'll be able to correct all, not all, because knowledge is a continuous thing. Okay. So it will only help you to play balance and have a good return. So now, when it comes to educating farmers, we have different programs in the country. The federal government has their own. The state has their own. Even private companies. Those that sell chemicals, that produce seeds, they organize things. Okay. But farmers in the rural area, and one thing is, there was one I attended, I think that should be 2 years ago. Do you know that it's about vegetable, tomato, and all those stuff, all those stuff. Now, we agree for that date. Do you know that rain fell ahead of that day, overnight? In fact, we started late, even with few people attended, on attendance. So farmers need to understand the fact that knowledge is very important, so that they will not just be running on scatter. With knowledge these days, with this global warming, climatic change and everything, we need to come to a smart agriculture that needs just a small portion of land, and we make a good production and break even more than someone that is using a large hectares of land. So that is the thing. So in recent, smart agriculture need to come in. We need to break from the old ways of doing things, and because you cannot continue to do it in the ways you have been doing it and expect that you get different results. It's not possible. So if you want to get a different result, you have to up your game. So you have to align. You have to align with this the current trend of production of agribusiness, of agri-farm. So that is the thing. So we need knowledge, no doubt about that. So farmers should make themselves available, or anybody interested in agriculture, agribusiness, whatsoever name you want to call it, should get the knowledge. It is non-negotiable. There are changes. You see the way rain has been this year.
Yes.
So like 3 weeks break, 3 weeks there and there. So maize are there on the farm. We are praying to God. Open. So you understand. So we cannot continually be depending on the nature. Yes, that is most of the that's why most of these things are catching up with us. We leave things to nature.
Thank you very much, Farmer Ayobami Kende. Thank you for the enlightenment on Tuta Absoluta tomato Ebola. That's what you'll be taking on our interview segment for today. Let's take a break, and after which Frontline will continue. Do stay with us.